Today's video has kindly been sponsored by Fuel for Fans, which is a website where you can find officially licensed F1 merchandise. So for the first time in about 7 months, it is race week for Formula 1. Yes, the Austrian Grand Prix kicks off the 2020 season on Sunday. So what better time to hop onto the F1 game, put the 2020 season mod on and simulate what the game thinks is going to happen in this Sunday's Grand Prix. If this is something that you'd like to see me do more often, please do leave a comment down below. You can see on screen now what the calendar is looking like, or the races that have been announced for the real life F1 season. So yeah, we've got a couple of races in Austria, and yeah, this will be the last one that I do on F1 2019. Obviously in the future I can do some of these on F1 2020 if you guys like the sound of that. So getting now into qualifying and actually straight into Q3. For this race we are going to be driving in the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel, a man who's made a lot of headlines in the off season. But yeah, into Q3 we go, and there is rain forecast. So we're getting out there straight away, try and get as good a grid position as we can. But yeah, hopefully we can sort of get a good grid position. You may have seen a Mercedes just go past the garage there. So whoever that was will probably be looking pretty good. Yeah, so as we come out the garage, you can see already a couple of spots falling in the air. So the chances are this is going to be our one and only chance at a flying lap. But yeah, we skip now on to the end of our outlap. And we go on to overtake ERS mode, maximum fuel mixture, and across the line on what is starting to become a bit of a damp track. So we're clipping the apex nicely in turn 1 on the inside, but not hitting any of the outside curbing just to make sure that we don't unsteady the car. As now we come through the slight kink of turn 2 and brake at the 100 metre board for turn 3, trying to turn it in, but the car really struggling to turn into turn 3 there with the wet track getting ever damper. And now as we go down the hill in the braking for turn 4, braking just underneath the Rolex board. Again, a little bit of a squirm under braking it was there, and not getting too much of the curbing on the exit as we go through turn 5 and into the double left-hander of 6 and 7 here, staying away from the inside curbs because that will only unsettle the car, especially as we come to the end of this lap now, and the track has had a good few minutes to get wet now. But now we've just got 2 corners remaining on this qualifying lap. No major dramas so far, nothing too special as Valtteri Bottas sets the fastest lap and we go wide there. And that is a good chunk of time that we've lost in the penultimate corner. But we come through the final turn and go just behind Valtteri Bottas and ahead of the 2 racing point cars. So that was our qualifying lap. And now we're going to take a look at how the grid is shaping up for this 50% race. So it's Valtteri Bottas on pole ahead of Lewis Hamilton. The game's predicted Mercedes domination. Will that be the case in real life? As we start ahead of Sergio Perez, with Verstappen just ahead of Lance Stroll and Alex Albon. So very, very good for the racing point cars. And our teammate Charles Leclerc could only manage P9. Esteban Ocon, on his return to F1, could only manage P14, but that was still ahead of his teammate Daniel Ricciardo, with George Russell out-qualifying Giovinazzi and his new teammate Nicholas Latifi. But now we get on to the formation lap for this race, and you can see those 2 Mercedes cars leading the way. Of course, Mercedes did announce yesterday that they'll be debuting a brand new livery for this season. In sort of support of the anti-racism and diversity movement, so that's obviously great to see. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it installed on this because I recorded it before it had been announced. But I did get the Williams livery, a very nice one on Race Department. So I'll leave a link to that down in the description. So you'll see George Russell and Nicholas Latifi with that livery. But without further ado, we're going to get into the racing action now for this virtual Austrian Grand Prix, and it's lights out and away we go. We seem to get a reasonable start on the two Mercedes, but it is an electric start from Max Verstappen in stark contrast to the real-life 2019 start. And there was a bit of carnage there with one of the Renault cars. We'll check on what happened there in just a moment. But an electric start from Max Verstappen has got him up from 5th to 3rd, and he's also challenging one of the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton as we now go into turn 3. But we get a good drive through there, getting really good traction on the exit of turn 3, and we're going to try and challenge Max Verstappen now as we plunge down the hill into turn 4, but we're going to be made to go all the way round the outside, so that move is not on whatsoever. And as we try to go for the switchback, Verstappen blocks us off, so we're just going to have to sit in P4 for the meantime. Not a fantastic start for us, losing one position, and yeah, just a fantastic start from Verstappen that I don't think we can really do anything about. Tried saving a little bit of ERS in the middle sector, but in doing so, we lost a little bit of time. But we take a look at a replay of the start, and Esteban Ocon, on his return to the sport, just goes for a massive dive down the inside and ends up blocking a good 6 or 7 cars. So not an ideal start for Ocon, as he lost a wheel as well, which is why he just sort of disappeared. And then you got Nicholas Latifi, the man who's new to the sport. And, yeah, you can sort of tell. He doesn't really know what he's doing. Hopefully, he doesn't do that in the real-life race, but he just didn't really know where to go. And then he just ends up getting disqualified for some reason. So he pulls off to the side. And that is his race over, and Ocon's race over, after a year out of the sport. Hopefully they fare better on this coming Sunday. But anyway, back on board with ourselves. And we are chasing down Max Verstappen still for P3. You can see the two Mercedes guys jostling at the front, but we've lost a lot of ground to them. So we're going to try and make our way past Verstappen as quickly as possible, trying to go all the way around the outside, leaving ourselves in a similar predicament to where Charles Leclerc was in the real-life 2019 Grand Prix against Max Verstappen. So we back out of that one and try and go around the outside here at turn 4. But yeah, we're really being held up by Verstappen at this stage of the race, and we don't quite manage to get past here on lap 3. And now we've got Sergio Perez right on our tail, so we're going to have to be careful that he doesn't overtake us in the meantime. But yeah, for the moment we're just going to stick in P4, as Verstappen is just really quick through this middle section. We can't quite get close to him. But now we go on to lap 4 of the Grand Prix, and finally the Mercedes are jostling wheel to wheel with each other. And as we see some terrible camera angles, so we're just going to go on board with Lewis Hamilton, who goes down the inside of Valtteri Bottas and takes the lead for the first time in this race. And meanwhile, we are going for a move on Max Verstappen, so there could be a double change of position in the podium spots as Verstappen cuts across us there and almost takes our front wing off, which wouldn't have been ideal. But as the sun starts to come out, our car is really starting to increase in performance. So this Ferrari looking quite temperature sensitive at this stage of the race, but we're going to have to be careful not to stay behind Verstappen for too long, or else we could get some overheating problems with the engine and lose a bit of power. So yeah, we stick with him through the middle sector that time, and yeah, just left ourselves in a higher ERS mode, which seemed to help. And now, as we get the assistance of DRS at the start of lap 5, we force Verstappen to the inside, get a little cutback on him, which should give us much better drive on the run up to turn 2. And sure enough, we make our way past Max Verstappen before we've got anywhere near to the braking zone at turn 3. And we've got a 3.6 second gap up to Valtteri Bottas. We actually outbrake ourselves there into turn 3. I was, well, looking behind a little bit too much, I think, and not really focusing on my own game. And you can see Verstappen is closing in on us behind, as is Sergio Perez, who's challenging the Red Bull driver. And as we fast forward through a few more corners, Verstappen's strength through the middle sector is really showing, and he dives down the inside of turn 9 at the penultimate corner. It's doesn't tend to be an overtaking zone, but he stuck his nose down the inside, caused us to have a snap of oversteer, and makes his way past with the DRS on the pit straight. Perez also has the DRS on us, and we just back out of that into turn 1 because we don't want to cause a crash so early on in this race. And also backing out gives us the DRS on the run up the hill, so we're not going to complain too much about that. And sure enough, we do get Sergio Perez on the run to turn 3. But Verstappen is too far ahead of us by the looks of things at the moment, and even with the DRS, we are not going to be able even to make a move on him into turn 4. So yeah, just sit behind him for the meantime. But yeah, we're going to have to get past him if we, well, very soon, if we have any chance of catching those two Mercedes cars. We go now on to lap 7, and we've managed to save a little bit of DRS in the last couple of laps, which means we'll be able to deploy it if we need to. But I think Verstappen must be running out because we switched to the inside only in medium deployment, and that is a lovely little overtaking move. We dummied to the outside and then darted to the inside, and we get past Max Verstappen with ease that time. So looks as if he's struggling a little bit, maybe with tyres, maybe with ERS. Not too sure, because that was an incredibly easy overtake from ourselves, and it's eyes forward now to try and catch up with those two Mercedes cars ahead. We'll check in a minute to see what the gap is up ahead, and it is 7.2 seconds. We're only on lap 7 of this race, so that shows how much time we were losing behind Verstappen. But yeah, now you can see that Verstappen is being closed in on by Sergio Perez as well in that Racing Point car, which obviously qualified really well, and it's holding up in the race. So is that a sign of things to come in the real-life Grand Prix as we make our way past Max Verstappen? But yeah, brilliant stuff from Sergio Perez in that pink Mercedes, and sure enough, in the F1 2019-2020 season mod, the Racing Point is in fact just a 2019 Mercedes with the Racing Point livery on top. So yeah, let me know, guys, what do you think Racing Points are going to be like in the real life Grand Prix? Do you think they're going to be able to challenge the top 3 teams? I'd be yeah, keen to know what you think. But now we skip forward to the real Mercedes cars on lap 9 of this Grand Prix. We've got Valtteri Bottas trying to close in on Lewis Hamilton, and well, the more these two jostle, the better it is for us to try and close that 7.2 second gap. Hamilton is getting very defensive, which won't be gaining him any time on us whatsoever. And Bottas looks as if he's going to go for a move. Is it around the outside? Yes, it is. So he's surely going to get squeezed out by his teammates on lap 9 of this Grand Prix. But he doesn't give up easily, does Bottas. So on lap 10, he's going for the move once again, this time around the outside of turn 1. And that is a lovely move from the Finnish driver ahead of Lewis Hamilton and up into the lead of this race. And you can see ourselves in the background there, just closing in for the meantime. And Hamilton's now going to be the one with DRS and doing the attacking. But as we come towards the end of lap 10, we have been going ham in the last few laps, and that means that we've closed that gap to 3.6 seconds. Can you believe it? So yeah, doing really well at the moment. And behind us as well, we've managed to build a gap, because there is a big battle ensuing between Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen, and our teammate Charles Leclerc, who's managed to make his way from 9th to 6th. After starting low down on the grid. And it looks as if Perez is really struggling at this stage of the race, and going around the outside at turn 1 is Max Verstappen, and surely Leclerc is going to be lining up a move now, because Perez doesn't have any DRS, whereas our teammate into turn 2 sweeps down the inside and gets the move done before the braking zone. So Perez's good afternoon is still looking okay, but a little bit less good as he goes from 4th down to 6th. And really struggling, by the looks of things, to hold on to the tail of Leclerc. But yeah, we now skip onto our own POV, because on lap 13, our tyres are looking absolutely dead, Bono. But yeah, we're on 66% on the rear left, and we're really struggling. Although we've closed that gap to 3.2 seconds, we've really had to push to do it. And you saw how deep we went into that last corner. So it means that we're going to have to pit a lap earlier than previously anticipated. We almost overshoot the pit lane. That's how little grip we've got on these tyres. We go onto the grass as well. But braking now for the pit limiter line. And we get it slowed down in time. And our teammate Charles Leclerc is also pitting. So it's going to have to be a double stack from the boys at Ferrari. Obviously, I've come in a lap early. So apologies, Charles, because I think I'm going to hold you up a bit. But not too much of a delay, probably a couple of seconds for Leclerc, but still not ideal, as we now go back on board with ourselves, and it looks as if we're going to come out in the midst of a little bit of a train of cars. So we've got 3 cars that we're going to have to pass. None of the Mercedes have come in yet, But yeah, if we want any chance of closing the gap on the two Mercedes at the front, we are going to have to clear these cars ahead. We've got Lance Stroll, Lando Norris and Pierre Gasly, all of which have had pretty good races so far, but we don't get any sort of DRS on Gasly. But the pure pace that our car is showing at the moment, due to the new tyres, means that we've got past him. Up ahead, Stroll and Norris battling with each other. A big lock-up from Stroll means that we're being held up further and further. There's going to be no chance for us to overtake in this middle sector. So we're just going to have to stick behind for the meantime and try and get them on the DRS, as Lando Norris looks as if he gets a brilliant run on Lance Stroll there through turn 8, and he dives down the inside at turn 9. A lovely move from Lando Norris. And that makes it even more difficult now for us to get past the two of them, as Stroll is so slow. That Racing Point looking as if it's having some really bad tyre issues in this race, and we have to brake way before the corners. It's another lock-up from Stroll, who goes round the outside of Norris. But yeah, we just had to completely back out of that move, which has lost us yet more time. And I think we're really going to struggle to close the gap on the two Mercedes after this pit window has ended. Fortunately, we go round the outside of Stroll and make that move stick, and we've got a little bit of clean air ahead of us now, but I think the damage may have been done already, because we've definitely lost a few seconds stuck behind those guys. But yeah, we've just got to focus our eyes forward now, and you can see at the start of lap 16, Lewis Hamilton has made his way out of the pits, and he is quite a way ahead. Remember, the gap before was about 3.2 seconds, I think, when we made our way into the pits. So we'll have a look what the gap is now. It is 4.3 seconds, so we've lost over a second to Hamilton, and we've had fresher tyres as well. So yeah, our time's pretty much gone on catching Hamilton. But now we see the battle between Hamilton and Bottas, and Lewis Hamilton, coming in a lap earlier, has jumped his teammate in the pits by quite a significant margin as well. So Bottas will be fuming with that. And as we go back on board with ourselves, we'll now take a look at what the gap is between ourselves and Bottas, who is also on the medium tyres. It's 3.3 seconds, so we've actually closed the gap on Bottas. But of course, Hamilton has extended his lead. Meanwhile, a little bit further back, it's Max Verstappen versus Charles Leclerc at Austria version 2. This time, Leclerc is going for a move on Max Verstappen on lap 19 of this Grand Prix, and our teammate makes his way past the 2019 winner. And a little bit less of an aggressive move than we saw in the real-life 2019 Grand Prix. But I'm sure the battle between the two of them is not over yet. Verstappen has been quick in stages in this race, so don't be surprised if you see him go for a move later on in the Grand Prix. Now onto lap 23 we go, and we just can't close the gap on Valtteri Bottas. Trust me, I was pushing like hell at this stage of the race. But yeah, just couldn't close the gap. Meanwhile, we've got Verstappen going around the outside of Charles Leclerc. What is going to happen here? Is he going to get pushed out by the Monegasque driver? No, he leaves Verstappen room, and Max goes around the outside. Leclerc taking the DRS on the run down to turn 4, and looks as if Leclerc's going to go back around the outside. So this is a real ding-dong battle that's going on between the two of them. And yeah, it's as if we're back in 2019. It's as if I'm playing the 2019 game or something, isn't it? You know. But anyway, we go back on lap 25 to see them battling with each other once again. But in the midst of all of that, Sergio Perez is catching back up to them. So looks as if we might have a 3 or even 4-way battle for P4 in this race, as Alex Albon is on the back of that train. But now as we go onto lap 25, back on board with ourselves, you can see we're struggling for fuel at this stage, because we have just been pushing and pushing and pushing. And in all of that, we've ended up losing time to Valtteri Bottas. So the Mercedes OP is real around this track. Hopefully it's not like that in real life, but that is what is predicted by the game, by the looks of it. So we've got 11 laps to go. We've got a massive gap behind us, and by lap 32 we decide to take advantage of that gap that we've built and come into the pit lane and try and set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. It's going to be touch and go as to whether we get out ahead of Leclerc and Verstappen, but even if we don't, we've got a few laps to get past them. And on a fresh set of soft tyres, we should have no issue in doing that. It looks as if Hamilton's got this race in the bag. You can see the on the mini-map they're on the run up to turn 3, and Hamilton's got a couple of second lead. So I thought, you know what, let's spice it up. We're never going to challenge for the victory. Let's have a few laps worth of fun and see how quick a lap we can set. So there you can see Leclerc and Verstappen just get ahead of us. So we were so close to jumping the two of them and being in P3 to start with. But being behind them means that we will be able to get a bit of DRS off them, so I can't complain too much. Goal number 1 is going to be to try and get ahead of Max Verstappen, because that should aid our teammate as well, and hopefully just provide a bit of a buffer for Leclerc and make sure that Verstappen doesn't get past him before the end of the Grand Prix. And we now run side by side with Max Verstappen as we've gone around the outside of him, the superior grip of these soft tyres compared to his hards, and we are side by side now in the middle sector, and as we go through turn 7 we just about make our way past Max, and well, Leclerc has got a decent bit of a gap now, which we should be able to close before too long. But now we skip onto lap 34. At this point I was just trying to save a bit of ERS so that we could just deploy it all on lap 35, where we planned to set our fastest lap. But in doing that, we got caught napping by Verstappen. So, yeah, a little bit silly from us. We've got plenty of fuel and ERS to use. But, yeah, after I got overtaken by Verstappen, I thought, you know what, these final couple of corners, I'll just hold back and then slingshot out the final corner and take his DRS and then hopefully latch on to Leclerc by the time we get on the run up the hill. So, sure enough, that manages to pay off. We go right around the outside of Verstappen at turn 1. Then managed to get the DRS on the run up to turn 3. Get one hell of a slipstream on Charles Leclerc as we get into the braking zone. Set a purple sector 1, and now we are right on the tail of our teammate and get his DRS on the run down to turn 4. So it's actually not worked out too badly. We've got our full allocation of DRS, and at this point it's looking like we've got the fastest lap in the bag, really. Just providing that we can set a purple sector 2 and keep it clean for the second half of the lap. And now we're going to get a delta, and we are 1.1 seconds, nearly 1.2 seconds quicker than our previous best lap. So I think we should be okay on the fastest lap here, and we just take it easy through the final couple of corners, make sure we keep it on the track, don't get a penalty. And that should give us the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Yes, indeed, it's a 106.9. The first man into the 106s. But despite that, it's still not good enough to beat the Mercedes cars, as we see Lewis Hamilton round the final corner and win this virtual Austrian Grand Prix. He was unbeatable this afternoon, as we see his teammate just lapping a car there as he comes across the line for P2. And yeah, utter domination from Mercedes in this race as we come around the final corner to take 3rd position ahead of our teammate in P4. So we did manage to help Leclerc secure that 4th place as well. So 16 points for us and 12 for Charles is not too bad, really. So I might end up turning this into a little championship by carrying it over onto F1 2020. If it's something that you guys would like to see. If it's not, then I won't. But yeah, just a little suggestion. But yeah, I just thought it'd be fun to build up to the first race of the season and see what the game thinks. There you can see Sergio Perez, not looking too happy, but he still took P6 for Racing Point. As now we go out onto the podium and we've managed to secure P3. Let me know, guys, in the comments what you think is actually going to happen at this weekend's Austrian Grand Prix. It'd be great to hear what you think. Do you think the Mercedes are going to run away with it? Do you think that Verstappen and Albon are going to be strong in the Red Bulls? And what about Ferrari? They had a tough pre-season, but yeah, what do you think they are going to do this weekend? It'd be great to hear and then reflect on them after the weekend. But there you can see the final race results, and we were just so much quicker. We were like a second quicker than anyone else. Over a second, actually, faster than Hamilton's fastest lap. So, yeah, I think we were just about okay on that fastest lap, it has to be said. As we look at the bottom half of the order, it was only Latifi and Ocon Latifi, Ocon and Giovinazzi didn't finish, but Ocon and Latifi didn't even complete a lap. after Ocon, I'm sure, chomping at the bit to try and get back to F1 racing. Hopefully, he doesn't do that at the weekend for his sake. But yeah, that is it for today's video, guys. Thanks once again to Fuel for Fans for sponsoring this video once again. I'll leave their link to the merch down in the description where you can get my discount. But until my next video, guys, do take care. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.